Okay, here we are. All right, so hey everybody. So this is going to be the painting that we're doing tonight, celebrating fall. I think it's really cute. And you guys are more than welcome to change up the color scheme. Y'all know the drill with that. I'm going to teach this color scheme for what it is, and we can go from there. So you can begin setting up your workspace. The way I like to do it is I have my canvas in front of me, my palette out to the side. I have my water cup, my paper towel, and my brushes right here. So I can grab everything and mix colors. Typically, I guess I put my palette over here, but tonight I'm going to have it over here because I'm going to be doing a lot of showing you and doing things like this, right? So you can take your paint containers and open them up, and you can kind of do like a little tapping game on the side of your paper plate to set up your palette. And I wouldn't put all of your paint out. That's not really necessary. Put about 50% of your paint out. That way you have a little bit extra for if you decide that you have to leave class early, or if you just want extra paint to paint with. I like to set mine up kind of like a color wheel. So I have my warmer colors over here, and then I have my cooler colors and my neutrals. So this is our dark brown. It's not black. It might appear black on the screen, but this is our dark brown, red, yellow, green, blue, and white. We'll be using a lot of white tonight, so try to make your white pile the biggest, but also, you know, save some to the side because you don't want to use it all up, because we're going to need it for pretty much every color that we use tonight. So, so use it, but use a lot of it, but use it sparingly, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to kind of set those palettes up, and I'll tell you a little bit about the paint. Those of you who are with me tonight, you guys already know all of this, but for those of you who are catching the recording, we are using acrylic paint tonight. This particular brand of paint, I don't think really mixes well with water for a 2-hour class. Now, if you are experimenting on your own, and let's say you have an ultimate paint kit, I highly recommend playing around with this paint, even using water with it. It can get very, very transparent. You can almost get some watercolor effects that are really beautiful. But our painting tonight is really bold. It's got some really nice color in it, and it's really opaque, and that's the way we want to handle the paint tonight. So don't mix water with your paint tonight, is moral of the story. I know our tendency is to take our brush, put it in the water, swirl it around in our paint, but we're not going to do that, okay? Like I said, the paint is very transparent, and the way it works is we really lay in a lot of layers, and so we want to be putting in thin layers that dry quickly so that we can kind of keep moving on to the next step, right? If we mix water with that, it's just going to take forever to dry, and then there's this fun waiting game that we have to play. So for the sake of this class tonight, try to avoid water. Okay, let's see. I kind of mentioned, you guys, you can do any color scheme that you want to do, any background color that you want to do if you're trying to match your house, or you're going to be giving this as a gift or something like that. You can also, you know, kind of plug in these flowers however you want to as well. So you can play around with composition a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to be teaching this shape for shape, color for color. But if you want to get a little crazy, you know, you can throw in extra little baby pumpkins down here. You can put in extra flowers. Let's say you like really love these little wheat things. You can put those in kind of everywhere. So I'll be teaching you how to do these shapes, but then you can compose your painting however you want to do it. Okay. The last thing I'm going to tell you is you should definitely be aware of how your canvas is sitting in front of you. So this is portrait position, and this is the way that we're going to be painting tonight. This is landscape position, okay? So I'm teaching in portrait position, so if you want to do your painting this way, put it in front of you this way. I have started paintings before this way with the intention of it being this way, and had to totally redo my plans, okay? So that's all I have to say about that, okay? So just prep your space so that you can be successful. Let's see, I think we're gonna take a 5 or 10 minute break in about an hour. So if you need to, fix up your palette a little bit or grab a drink or run to the restroom, you can do that. Other than that, we're gonna paint right through, okay? So are you guys all set? Are your palettes ready to go? Thumbs up all around. Cool, okay, very cool. Awesome. Okay, well then let's get started. This is so exciting. It's really been so long. So forgive me because I am a little rusty. Kind of forgot like my flow and my area. I'm feeling a little bit, I don't know, a little bit nervous. I haven't felt nervous in front of a painting class in a really long time. So I'm glad it's just you guys tonight. Okay, so let's start with our background. We're gonna start with our largest brush, okay? You should have 4 brushes tonight in your kit. We have a background brush, we have a size 7 round, a size, 3 round, and this should be an 8 flat. Okay, flat brushes are the ones that are rectangular, and rounds are obviously the ones that are rounds, okay? But we're gonna start with our background brush, okay? And that can be any size of a large brush. So we're gonna start with our background, okay? And our background is made up of blue and white. I would say mostly white. You're gonna want just a little bit of blue. You can kind of pull it over to your white a bit here and keep it kind of marbled, okay? And then you're just gonna kind of start painting on your canvas, okay? So I'll show you what that's gonna look like. Okay, see, I'm just starting to put the paint on there. I'll pull you closer here. There we are. I'm just gonna start putting the paint on here. And notice I'm not putting it on straight back and forth or up and down or kind of swirly. I'm kind of doing almost like little hatch marks, right? Just kind of back and forth, just kind of being a little bit messy with it, okay? You can kind of be scribbly. You just wanna smear the paint into the tooth of the canvas. That's the texture of the canvas. And if you feel like any areas are getting kind of dark, like I feel like this area might be a little bit dark, I'm just gonna grab white and spread out that blue paint a little bit this way. Okay, so you want your background to be nice and choppy. You want there to be a little bit of movement back there. Okay, when you get close to an edge, go ahead and paint it. So I'm painting my top edge right now. And y'all know this, that's just good craftsmanship. And you won't have to go frame your painting at a frame store. You can just hang it up on the wall. It's ready to go. Okay, I'm gonna bring this down here for a moment. And y'all can watch me paint it down here. It's hard to hold it up and do choppy painting. So when I go back to my palette, I am just getting white and a little bit of blue. I'm not even really mixing it. I'm just letting it mix on my brush. And I'm just coming on down here. And I'm just keeping my brush moving. Notice kind of how quick I'm going, okay? I'm really pressing down so that the paint gets pushed into the tooth of the canvas, because if you don't press relatively hard, you're gonna get a lot of marks like this. You can kind of see, okay, where the paint isn't going all the way into the texture of the canvas. Okay, I'm a little bit dark down there, so I'm gonna just grab some white, kind of thin that out a bit, okay. So I'm gonna give you guys a moment to work on your backgrounds. Get your edges covered. And kind of get used to the paint, okay? It's been a while since we've done this, so get reacquainted. And remember too, it's okay if there are different shades of blue kind of hopping all over the place. That's kind of what you want. You want some areas to be a little darker, some a little lighter. You want to be able to see your brush strokes. Remember too that this is just your background, okay? It's going to be covered with beautiful flowers and pumpkins, so don't stress out too much about this part. Just let this part be where you get used to your paint and your brush. You kind of play around a little bit. Okay, so you can see I have some dark areas, some lighter areas. I'm gonna go back over and make sure I can't really see my canvas. Once you have your whole area covered, okay, try to refrain from continuing to paint on it. We want it to dry. Okay, and then you can start kind of working on your edges. So that's what I'm going to start on. But we want our, especially this area down in here, we want this to dry so that we can start working on our pumpkin pretty soon, and we don't have to kind of sit and wait. Okay, so work on your edges kind of last, I think might be a good option. Okay. When you're done with your background, you can go ahead and just put your brush right in your water cup, and you can just leave it in there for the rest of the night. We're not going to be using this brush at all. Okay. I'll give you guys a few more minutes to finish up those backgrounds. So they've been putting up Christmas lights around the square. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not. Some of them are on, but my kids have definitely noticed. And they're like, wait, it's Christmas time? I'm like, no, not yet. Not Christmas time. Don't start asking for things. They're like, wait, why don't we have Christmas lights on at our house? Why don't we have all the decorations out? Like, you guys, it was just Halloween. Okay? It's not even Thanksgiving yet. We have pumpkins on our table. Let's just work through this pumpkin season for a little bit longer before we start getting all the Christmas decorations out. I mean, I love Christmas, but man, it's crazy already. They've had like all the cherry pickers out around here. I mean, if they're gonna put them up, they may as well turn them on, right? I think. It's like a big tease. All right, my canvas is just a little bit wet still. And it's okay when we start doing this pumpkin if your canvas is still a little bit wet. It'll probably work in your favor because we're going to be painting with orange. And orange and blue, which is our background color, are complements on the color wheel. And so they'll work together pretty nicely because we have some areas on our pumpkin that are kind of dark. And so if your blue kind of starts blending in with your orange, that'll be okay. It'll do some shading for you without you even really having to try to do much work. So it's all good there. Does everybody still have white left? I hope. Good. No, Brandy, you don't have any left? You might need to find some, girlfriend. We'll give it a few more moments. I'm already covered in paint. That's good. Great. Okay. Things are going the way they used to. Okay. All right, y'all. So mine's okay. It's a little bit kind of tacky. I can see in the light. Some of it's still wet, and now that I'm doing this, I can see some parts of my canvas that are kind of showing through a little bit. But don't worry about that if you're finding that's the case with you too. This painting is so busy, the majority of our background is covered, so chances are you're going to end up covering these spaces anyway if you have any problem areas, okay? Okay, so we're going to start painting a pumpkin. And I love painting pumpkins, and I hope you guys are gonna like it too. I think that they are, I don't know, there's something about this, just like a round shape, and the brush strokes just blend all really beautifully. And so I love painting with these colors. So it's gonna be really fun. So I'm gonna show you my palette. We're gonna jump over to our flat brush, okay? I forget what size that is. I think it's an 8, your size 8 flat. So anything that you have close to this, yes, Brandy, that is it, okay? Anything you have close to this is totally fine. You want it to be a flat, okay? All right, and so we are gonna start with a little bit of white, and I'm gonna bring some white over to my orange, or I'm sorry, over to my red and my yellow, and I am gonna mix a little bit of an orange, okay? Now this red is super crazy powerful, so I'm only gonna grab just a little bit to start, and a big old chunk of yellow here. And I'm gonna start mixing right in between my two colors just to kind of see what happens, okay, and kind of see if I like this color. I mean, that's really the goal, you guys. You just wanna mix colors that you enjoy looking at. And I am okay with this orange. It's a yellowy orange, okay, and I don't really mind that at all. So I'm gonna start with this, okay, and I'm gonna keep adding reds and yellows as I go, and I will show you, but I just need a little bit of orange to kind of just get me started here. So go ahead and kind of experiment with that. Mix an orange that you enjoy looking at. I might make just a little bit more here for good measure. Maybe you're more of a bold person. Maybe you like bolder color. So then mix a little bit less white than what I am. But you do need to mix white in there because, like I was mentioning before, this paint tends to be a bit transparent. And for some reason, the white is pretty opaque. And so it makes any color that we mix pretty opaque. And that's what we want. Okay, so I like that. Also remember the color that you're mixing, like mine looks pretty salmony. It doesn't look very orange, but when I start painting on this blue background, all of a sudden it will turn into orange. That's just the magic of the color wheel, okay? So whatever color you mix, it is gonna show up a little bit differently on your palette, okay? So don't stress out too much about mixing the perfect orange, the perfectly right color, okay? Whatever you mix is probably going to be really beautiful on this blue. Maybe it won't be, but I'm going to be really positive and encouraging for you. So maybe it's going to be wonderful, right? It's going to be beautiful. Okay. All right, so something about this pumpkin, I want you to notice the composition, it is not in the middle, okay? It is over to the side just a little bit. So decide which side you want it to be kind of closer to. You know, I've got maybe about ½ an inch over on this side right here, whereas I have about 1.5 inches over here, okay? So if any of you are like me, you inevitably paint things off center, and so this is gonna work in your favor, okay? All right, so I'm gonna find where I want my pumpkin to be, and I'm just gonna kind of visualize it a little bit, just kind of see, okay. I'm also gonna realize that I have a lot of floral action that's gonna be happening on the whole top part of my canvas. And so I'm gonna come about halfway down my canvas, okay? And not quite in the middle. See, this is my middle. I'm gonna come over just a little bit here, and I'm gonna make a mark. And I'm gonna say, okay, that is where my pumpkin is gonna start. I'm gonna get you guys a little bit closer here. You can see the canvas better. Not really me, but you can see the canvas. Okay, there we go, that's better. All right, and so I'm gonna start by drawing a circle. I'm gonna get this so I can see it. More of like an oval shape, but I do recommend that you start doing this a little bit smaller than you feel like you should. You can always make your pumpkin bigger, but you cannot make it smaller. It's very hard to do that, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of start aiming downward here and kind of make it more oval-like, okay? And I'm gonna leave a little bit of ground on the bottom there. And now I'm gonna go a little bit bigger. And a little bit rounder. See how it's kind of growing a little bit? I'm gonna go a little bit bigger. Coming down a little bit farther now. Getting a little braver. Okay. Until I have a shape that I'm kind of okay with. Okay, I might even come up a little bit higher here. A little bit bigger. Okay, see how it's growing? Then every once in a while, you need to kind of get back from it. Okay, so see how I started where I was way over here, and I've really pushed out my side this way. Okay, that's what you need to do. Your bottom isn't necessarily round down here either. It has more of a flatter bottom, okay? It's okay if it's round. Every pumpkin is different. And if you need to, once you really have your shape, you can kind of start to fill it in a little bit so you can really see it for what it is. Now, when you start to fill it in, I want you to remember that you are painting a sphere, okay? So don't paint it straight up and down or straight side to side. Paint it like it's curved, okay? So that it starts to kind of take on this three-dimensional shape. And so when I'm painting kind of out to the side, okay? More in this kind of round kind of way. You kind of see how my paint strokes are going? It's okay if you see the blue coming through. That's inevitable. Your paint should be turning pretty orange at this point. Mine went from a melony color to a really nice orange. I'm okay with. Okay. Get some perspective from it. Make sure that you like the shape of it. I'm gonna just put it down here for just a second so I can get this edge nice. Okay. So if you get real close to mine, see how you can see the blue coming through? The canvas is showing through. That is okay. This is just our first coat. So while your paint is still kind of wet, I want you to start, every time you go back to your palette, kind of pick up a slightly different color. Okay, so this time I'm gonna pick up a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. I have a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow on my brush. And I'm gonna be turning my brush in two directions. So you guys remember this? If we have the wide side, we get a wide brush stroke. If we turn it on its side, we get a thin brush stroke. You see the difference there? Okay, I want you to alternate back and forth. And I still want you to remember you're painting a sphere, okay? So see how my brush strokes are curved? That's how I want you to start painting. So I'm bringing in a little bit of yellow and white, and I'm just kind of smearing it all the way across, kind of bringing up a little bit of a highlight almost, right? Okay, got the side of my brush, the wide side, the thin side, wide and thin. I'm just kind of going back and forth, just kind of taking a chance here. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's really fun when you do this, when your canvas when the paint is still wet on your canvas. Okay, if you don't like that yellow showing up so much, just take white and go right over it. That's kind of what I just started to do, and it started to blend right in. Okay, we're just gonna do this a little bit just to kind of get your pumpkin a little bit more solid here. I don't really recommend going in and picking up white and red. The red can be really harsh and really bold. So pick up either white and yellow, or you can mix a little bit of a bolder orange and mix up some of that and use that, but don't go straight for that red, okay? That's gonna be a little bit too much. Okay, I just mixed up a little bit of a bolder orange. It's kind of a pink. Okay, and I'm kind of putting some of that in. So in the center of your pumpkin, you should almost have like an eye, okay, or like an almond, a sideways almond kind of shape happening, and then like parentheses out to the side, okay? Okay, so that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm gonna give you guys a moment to kind of work that out a little bit. I'm gonna plug my computer in real quick. It's losing battery very quickly. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna put in some of these darker marks. And then we'll put in some of these highlights that we have on our pumpkin and really get some beautiful color to kind of show up. Okay. How's everybody's pumpkins coming so far? Nice, nice. Holly and Brady doing good. Stephanie, awesome. Cool. So this is one of those things too where you could just keep on going with it. You could just keep on layering, and that's okay, you can do that. Eventually though, I haven't washed my brush at all. I'm still using this brush. I'm gonna just pick up a little bit of this dark brown that we have on our palette, okay? And I'm gonna use the thin side of my brush. It's really important we use the thin side of our brush. And I'm gonna kind of define some of the sections of my pumpkin, okay? And these marks are gonna look like really strong and bold at first, but we're gonna push them in a little bit, so just bear with me, okay? We're gonna start in the middle, and I'm gonna start at the top of my pumpkin, and I'm using the side of my brush, and I'm just gonna create that eye or that almond shape in the center of my pumpkin, okay? I'm gonna go back over this line because I want it to be a little bit bolder, okay? So you can really see it. So it's kind of pointed here because we're not gonna see the top of our pumpkin, so we're not really going to paint it as if it were, as if there was a stem here. We don't really need to do that, okay? Now I'm gonna paint the next section, and I'm gonna come more out. This is gonna be more like a wider parentheses to the bottom. Same over here, okay? And then I'm gonna kind of do my outline a little bit. I'm gonna outline my pumpkin with this bolder color. And see, notice when I'm coming down to the bottom of my pumpkin, it's not coming down to a point, it's kind of just meeting that bottom down there. Okay, I'll kind of see that. Now let's say you don't like your shapes. Like I'm looking at mine right now. I feel like my section in here is like a little bit too thin. Okay, so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that brown off of my brush, and I'm gonna grab some orange, maybe a little bit of white. I'm gonna blend this right in. Okay, kind of push it right in as if it never happened. Okay, and I'm gonna do it again. I'm going to be a little bit more narrow this time. Okay. All right. So once you have these sections of your pumpkin, I'm going to wipe off that brown. Now I'm going to go to each section and I'm going to give a little bit of a highlight, a little bit more yellow, and I'm just going to kind of really make it look more plump, okay? So what I'm doing is I have a mixture of like white, yellow, orange on my brush, and I'm just going to go from one side to the other, okay, and paint in the direction to make it more spherical, okay? And I'm going to kind of eliminate some of the boldness of this line, especially on the outline. Okay, so I'm going to start by kind of starting up at the top here. I'm using the thin side of my brush. Just going to thin out that line a little bit. And I'm using different amounts of pressure. Okay, sometimes I'm pressing hard, sometimes I'm pressing thin. Okay, I'm going to grab just a little more yellow here. Make that a little bit yellower. Okay, I'm not thinking too hard about it. I'm going to move right on to my next section. And I would recommend trying to move through these sections kind of quickly. You know the game we play. If you let your brain think too hard about it, it's going to overanalyze and criticize. Okay, don't let your brain do that. When you get to this middle section, I think it's the most fun. You really just want to lay in all kinds of color. You're going to get a lot of pinks. It's inevitable. This red that we're using is very, very pink. Okay, moving right along. I'm really just kind of thinning out these lines, kind of pushing them back a little bit. If you have any lines that are super bold, you can even paint right on top of them very lightly, like I just did there. And that'll really push it into the canvas. And you can kind of play with that a little bit. But especially focus on those outer outliney lines. We want them there, but we want them thin. Okay, don't worry too much about the top. The top of my pumpkin is a mess, but you really want to focus on these little little sections here, these shapes. And don't be afraid to use white. Like that's plain white that I just grabbed. And I'm going to grab it and just pull it around. See how that just makes so many different colors kind of pop there? So each section should have a little bit of yellow, lots of orange, a little bit of pinks, and some white. Let that white really be a nice highlight for your pumpkin. And let your brush strokes show. Don't try to overblend. Let these colors kind of band, okay? And if you paint over one of your lines a little bit too much, you can always jump back in and add it. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. That's where I'm at right now. I feel like my middle lines might be a little bit too bold. Okay, I'm painting right on top of my bold lines, just to kind of push them down a little bit. Don't be afraid to do that, okay? Every once in a while, get a little perspective. Get some space from your painting. Okay, I'm adding in a little bit of a darker orange here now. So yeah, you can work this as long as you want. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to kind of play with the colors. Okay, I'm gonna show you the difference between tonight's painting and the one we're working on. I feel like this one over here is a little bit bolder, maybe. Okay. Kind of get a little bit closer so you can see the brush strokes kind of showing. Brandy, that looks great. But you can see the pinks, you can see the reds, yellows, oranges, the browns, the white. There's some really bold whites in here. You can see the brush strokes. Okay. Cool. How are you guys doing? Okay? Cool. Like I said to you before, this is, I feel like pumpkins are one of those things, kind of like your background, you can just keep painting them. So if you see something that you like on your canvas or something that you're just okay with, I would just put your brush down. Just let it be. I went ahead and I put this brush in the water. We might use, we're gonna use it for our white flowers. So yeah, go ahead and just wash it. That would be good. Go ahead and wash that brush. Just a reminder, you guys, when you wash your brushes, I take my paper towel and I just sandwich my brush in between the paper towel and I pull, and that will get all of the water not only off of the bristles of the brush, but off of this metal part. And that's really important. You don't want any water on that metal part. If you go in for a perfect brush stroke and you lean down, your water droplet will just drip down that paintbrush and land itself nice and happy on your painting. And that's always really fun to deal with. Okay. So is everybody okay with their pumpkins so far? Does anybody need help with their pumpkins? We're okay with it. We're gonna go for it. Okay. All right. So if we have a clean brush, we are gonna jump in. It's okay if your pumpkin is wet. That is okay. We're gonna be working on our white flowers next. And our white flowers are way up here. This bottom one will probably touch your pumpkin, but that's not a big deal, okay? Notice they're up here, okay? So not really even touching our pumpkin. They look like they are because we're gonna be painting in leaves and all kinds of things, but we're not gonna do that yet, okay? So, all right, let me study this for a second. All right, so if you are painting white flowers with me, make sure that you have white. I'm gonna grab a little bit extra white out of my tub. I'm using tubs tonight because I had a kit that didn't get picked up, so I thought that I would experience the little plastic cups with you guys and see how that actually does work. It works. It's a little bit annoying, but it does the job, right? Being real. Okay, getting all the water off my brush. Okay. So anyway, so if you notice, these flowers are white, right? But they actually are not if you get super close to them. They are dark brown and white, okay? That's what's gonna give them their definition. So I'm gonna tell you, it's really easy to muddy up these flowers really quick. So your brush strokes are few and they're deliberate. Okay, so I want you to watch how I'm gonna do this first flower, And I want you to do your best to not overwork this, okay? These flowers go by pretty quickly. We're just gonna be painting just a couple of brush strokes to get the feel for them, and we're gonna move on. And I think they look like blobs for a long time, and then we're gonna put in leaves, and we're gonna put in these berries and these little twirly things, and all of a sudden they look like flowers, okay? So be patient with yourself, let them be blobs for a while, and okay, we'll go from there. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do with my clean brush is I am just gonna grab pure white. Okay, so I've got a nice healthy blob of pure white on my brush. All right, and I'm gonna decide, okay, I'm gonna have 3 flowers, and I'm gonna kind of visualize where they're gonna go. I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, and each flower is kind of aiming a different direction, okay? Now this first one, I'm gonna sort of draw kind of like a sideways U at first, and it's gonna be kind of off to the side a little bit, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make kind of a U. It's just, it's not really touching my pumpkin, but it's just barely there. And it doesn't matter if it does touch it, but I'm gonna make a U kind of aiming out this way, okay? I'm gonna pull you guys in even closer here. Let's get real close here. Okay, so here's my U, okay? Now I'm gonna kind of do like a, kind of like a little bit of a bumpy shape. Kind of circle back around there. You see that? It's kind of just like a little bump. Kind of went up, and I connected. So now I have one whole shape here, okay? All right, so I have white on my brush, right? I grabbed just a little bit more. Now I'm gonna get a little crazy, and I'm gonna grab just a smidge of dark brown. That's what my brush looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, white and dark brown. And I'm gonna barely touch the canvas when I do this, but I'm gonna touch it enough to make a brush stroke, okay? I'm gonna swoop over here. See what that did? I need even a little bit more brown. Okay, don't be afraid to use the brown. I'm gonna swoop over again. I'm gonna really fill in that section there. Okay. Got a little more brown. I'm gonna put a little bit, I'm gonna use the wide side of my brush, and I'm gonna kind of make this part up here a little bit wider and kind of come around. Okay. I'm gonna take my brush, I'm gonna wipe off this paint off on my paper towel. Okay, so my brush looks like this. It still has white paint on it, but it's kind of clean. I'm gonna pick up pure dark brown. Just pure dark brown. And I'm going to lay it in this top section of my flower. I'm gonna kind of even like dab it in. Like I'm not even really painting as much as I'm like just putting the color down in this top little section that we've made. Okay, I might just do a little swoopy here. There we go. Okay, you want like a weird shape like that to show the inside, the depth of the flower. You might see a little blue coming through, and that is okay. No big deal. Okay, I'm wiping off some of that paint, and I'm gonna go back with some white. Maybe a little bit of brown. A lot of white, a little bit of brown. And I'm gonna just kind of finish off this flower. I'm gonna come right up close to this shape right here and just kind of show, okay, that is a petal going right in front of it there. Okay. Now I'm getting back and I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, my flower looks a little bit too brown for me. I think it's too brown and it's not quite fluffy enough. Okay, so I've wiped off the brown off my brush and I've just put white on here. So I'm gonna come down here a little bit and I'm just gonna use white, and I'm barely touching my canvas, and I'm just gonna kind of make it just a little bit wider. See how I'm just like barely like kind of sweeping and touching, okay? I'm just barely touching my canvas. I'm just kind of laying in some color there. Okay? I'm gonna leave that alone. I don't love it. I don't totally hate it. I'm gonna just kind of leave it alone for right now. I'm gonna just hope that I can put some leaves in here and it'll turn into a flower one day. Because it will. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one, and it's gonna be the same idea. So I'm wiping off my brush, but I'm gonna start with pure white. All right, my next flower, I am gonna come on down here, okay? But you wanna make sure that when you do this next one, you are going to touch this one that you just did, okay? So this one is, I'm actually gonna draw kind of a looser sort of oval shape, okay? And I am touching my pumpkin. I'm resting on my pumpkin. And see how it's touching that other flower. Okay, I have a huge chunk of white on my brush and I am going to start aiming. I'm going to start figuring out the layout of my flower. So I'm going to swoop in, okay, like so, because this is going to be the dark part of my flower. I'm going to widen this out a little bit. Okay, kind of swoop in a little bit there. Now I'm going to grab white and dark brown on my brush. It's a lot of dark brown, hang on. Oof. Okay, I'm going to swoop down lightly again. Kind of come up here, give a little bit of brown. Okay. See, my brush strokes are really showing. You see those gobs? Let it be gobby. I'm going to wipe off the white off of my brush and I'm going to grab just straight dark brown. And I'm going to come into this blue part here and I'm just going to press it right in there. Okay, let it be textured. That's totally fine. You don't have to smooth it out. I mean, this middle part doesn't have to make much sense here. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger, I think. A little bit more full, okay? Something like that. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit of just pure white here and just kind of swoop around this part that we just painted. Give it a nice white part, okay. I don't know. Smear some paint on there. Make sure you're using the wide side of your brush so that you get a nice wide mark, okay? And let them be mostly dark brown. I mean, if you look at this, if you get really up in there, they really are. All of the white really has some of that brown mixed into it. They're tan. Okay, they just read as white flowers, but really they're not. Okay, so don't stress out if you feel like you have too much brown in your flowers. The other thing that you can do, I can see that some of your faces are stressed. What you can do is let this dry totally and completely. We're gonna do the third flower, okay? Then we're gonna hop down here. We're gonna do our happy little white pumpkin. That'll bring a lot of joy to your heart. Then you can revisit your white flowers and they will be dry for the most part. And you can go back and if you feel like they need to be whiter or if they need to have a little bit of color to them or something or they're just not right, we can rework them a little bit, okay? You can show them to me and I can show you, hey, that needs to be a little bit rounder, a little bit wider, a little bit darker or whatever, okay? But for now, just let them be weird little blobs, okay? Okay. We're gonna fit our third flower in here now, okay? And this third flower really is mostly kind of tan, okay? So once again, I've just wiped off the paint off my brush and I'm going to start with pure white, tiny little touch of brown, okay? Now this flower you have to paint as if it is tucked back in here and it is aimed the opposite direction, okay? So we're gonna start by painting kind of a U in here, okay? So I'm gonna kind of come down here and my U stops, right? Because I'm going behind these flowers and then it comes back out again up here. You kind of see that? Okay, I might even make this a little bit wider of a U, okay. And don't worry, if you start messing up these other two flowers by doing this one, you can come back in later and we'll pull this up and say, hey, that flower is actually in front of it. So if it's not working right now, don't worry. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna swoop around, kind of swoop in there, kind of come up, just about kind of halfway there, right? Something like that. Okay. I'm gonna fill in this bottom section. So I'm just gonna kind of pull a little bit over, kind of just do whatever I can to kind of just fit the paint down in that section. And this flower is clearly darker than the others because it is more in the background. Do you see how my paint is darker? It's not white. It's definitely a tan color. Because it is back there. There is a shadow being cast by these other two flowers, okay? So you wanna let that be. Okay. I'm gonna wipe off that white, grab pure dark brown. Once again, I'm gonna kind of put that dark brown, I'm just gonna like really lay it in there. Some white got mixed in there. Okay, something like that. Gonna wipe off that dark brown. I'm going in for some pure white here. And I'm just gonna kind of pull everybody back together. I'm gonna put in a brush stroke there. Anything that kind of looks funky. I don't know. He looks kind of wonky tonight. And what I'm gonna do now is really take this white and I'm gonna go back to this first flower that we did and I'm gonna put in a petal that goes on top of that flower we just painted to show, hey, I was here first. Okay. Okay, so it's 7:53 here in Texas, and maybe in about 5 minutes or so, we will take a break. But while we still are working with white and brown, let's go ahead and just put in our little baby pumpkin down here at the bottom. And then we can take a break. And if you feel like you need to go back and work on your flowers or work on your pumpkin a little bit more, you absolutely can. Okay, so I'm going to show you where we're going and where we're at. Okay, give you a little hope here. I love this little white pumpkin at the bottom. I think it's super cute. I'm not even washing my brush. I still have white and some brown on my brush, okay? Now, I do want you to try to put this pumpkin on the same plane as your big pumpkin, okay? It's like sitting on a table, okay? And it is, yes, it is a little bit in front of this pumpkin, right? Well, obviously it is in front of this pumpkin, but it is still sitting on the same plane. So it needs to be relatively, you know, sitting kind of in the same plane when you draw it down here, okay? So let that kind of be your guide, okay? We're just gonna jump right into this guy. He overlaps your pumpkin. The middle of him, in fact, even starts already on your pumpkin. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw him a little bit, kind of almost like a very, very round heart. Okay, he's like a very, very round heart. I'm even gonna make him a little bit taller. Okay, that's up to you, how big you want him to be. Okay, once you have your very, very round heart, You can go ahead and fill them in. Okay. And his shape is going to change a very little bit. Okay. We're going to give him some depth here in a moment. But go ahead and get that baby filled in. And it probably isn't pure white. You're probably seeing a little bit of your orange kind of showing through on one side, and you might even be seeing a little bit of blue kind of coming through on the other side. Ooh. And that's okay. Okay, so that's what my little guy looks like. You see how you can see the blue and you can see the orange? That's okay. We're just gonna let him be like that. Now I'm gonna drop that brush in the water and I'm going to pick up my smallest brush. It's a size 3 round. And I'm gonna jump right in to my dark brown. And I'm gonna draw in my stem, okay? So my stem is gonna come right down into my pumpkin. Okay, he's not gonna start at the top here. He's gonna come right down in here. So it's actually like sitting down into my pumpkin, right? So, and it's kind of a wider stem. I almost draw like a little happy face there. You see him like a little happy face? I'm gonna curve him up, but you can make this stem any shape you want. I'm gonna kind of cut it and come down. That is my stem shape. Okay, and I'm gonna use my brush and just pull down. And you're gonna notice that this paint is super transparent. And that is okay. That is our first little layer there. Okay. So now you know that I have my stem, I'm gonna let you kind of fill your stems in here real quick. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna get this pumpkin to be dimensional all of a sudden. Okay. I still have my size 3 brush. I have some dark brown. Much like we did the dark lines on this pumpkin, we're gonna do it on him. I'm gonna be a little bit rounder though, because he's just small and plump and cute, okay? So starting from the inner part, I'm gonna come out, draw a pair of parentheses that don't quite touch at the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna come out even more to the side here. They kind of fade as they get to the bottom there, right? So that's just me applying less pressure. Okay. And now I'm gonna do them on the outside of my pumpkin, but I'm not actually going to outline this top part of my pumpkin. Okay, so this is fun. This is how we're gonna get some dimension for our stem. So watch how I do this. I'm gonna start actually right at this point that we jumped out our other 2 points, okay? And I'm gonna jump up and out and go around. But do you see how that left just a little bit of white back there? Can you guys see that? There's just a little bit of white back there. So I'll do it on this side and it'll be even more so you can see it. See that white that I left back there? Okay, you want that. Okay, I'm actually going to, you wanna get a nice point on your brush. And I'm gonna come from behind my stem now and come back and out and around and show more of that. So I'm gonna carve out more here, and I'm gonna have to actually go back and grab a little bit more white paint and fill in this section back here. And that really helps show that your stem is really set in your pumpkin. You guys see that? It's an easy little step to really show dimension. Okay. Okay, now if you want to, you can go back with some white, some browns, and you can add in some more layers to your pumpkin, kind of like we did this guy. I didn't. I'm putting a little bit more white on here because I accidentally hit it with my arm. But you are more than welcome to kind of work this pumpkin however you want, but he is also just fine just the way he is. I'm gonna work my stem a little bit more, add some swirlies, and then we can take a break, okay? And you all can work on this more. But I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna revisit my stem, okay? Because now that we've drawn all those lines in there, I really wanna pull out that my stem is here. So I'm just using my brush and I'm just kind of pulling down another layer of paint here, okay? I'm gonna add this little shape up here to kind of show that it's been cut. Okay, that's totally optional, whatever you wanna do. Okay, but the fun part, I think, is these little curly Q guys, okay? So if you decide to do them, you really want a nice point on your brush, okay? And you're just gonna kind of pick a couple of different spots, like little launching points, okay? And do some little swirls. You don't have to do this. I think they're fun though. Do some from up here. You really wanna be light-handed. I hardly have any paint on my brush. And every swirl is a little bit different. It's got a little bit of a different personality. Okay? And you can add as little or as few as you want. Okay? So here is where we're at and here's where we're going. We're moving right along. I'm gonna set this easel up so that you guys can look at the original painting while you guys continue to work or take a break, whatever it is that you guys wanna do. Before we take a break though, does anybody have any questions about what we've done so far? Or did anybody need to show me their painting and get some advice on what to do? Okay. Oh, it's looking great. Nice, Holly. All right, you guys. Well, I'm gonna give you, I mean, I can probably give you about 10 minutes. It's 8:05, so at 8:15, we'll jump back in and we'll do our leaves and our wheat and those little berry flowers. And any other questions that you guys might have, we can address. Okay, so let me set this up for you guys and I will see you in 10 minutes. All right, you guys, how is it going? Are we okay? Good. Working things out? Figuring things out? Did anybody need help with anything? Okay, confident group. Good, good. Okay, I'm gonna swing over here real quick and check messages. Make sure nobody needs me over here. Okay. Okay. All right, well, let's keep moving. We seem to be doing well. My flowers are still pretty gobby. Maybe yours are too. I'm gonna kind of let them be for now. I need a little bit more white on my palette. You all need to do that, get a little more. Okay. And these tubs are fun, aren't they? Okay, so we are gonna jump right back in. We're gonna start with our number 7 round brush, okay? We're gonna start working on our green leaves, okay? We're gonna start plugging those guys in, and it's gonna help our painting look a lot more full, and I think it's gonna help our flowers look more like flowers and less like blobs, which I know lots of you will be excited about. Okay, I'm gonna pull y'all a little bit closer. All right, let us begin. I'm off mute, right? Yeah, okay, I am. That's good. You can hear me. That's good. All right, so we're gonna start with a lighter. Yeah.
Marcy's having some video problems. She's gonna jump off and you're gonna have to let her back in.
Okay, that sounds good. I will pay attention to that. Sorry, Marcy. We'll give Marcy a minute real quick. Are you stuck?
I don't think she's able to get out. It's like it was just a strip at the top of her screen, so she couldn't like see you big.
That's weird.
I figured it out.
Oh, you did. Right. You're good. You're good.
I don't know what I did. I don't know what happened, but we're back to normal.
Okay. Okay. I was about to kick you out, so I'm glad you told me that.
I figured it out. Okay. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, no problem. Okay, guys. Crisis averted. All right. So we're going to jump into these leaves. Okay. So we should have our size 7 round brush. Okay. And this green's super transparent. Shocker. Okay. So let's grab a little bit of white. That's kind of a lot of white. Grab a little bit of white and mix it with your green. I mean, you don't want to make like a super, super light green here, but we're mixing a little bit of white just to help with the transparency. Okay. A light green is pretty, but we're gonna go, we're gonna paint all of our leaves a little bit lighter, and then we're gonna go back with our normal green, and we're gonna hit a little bit of a, I guess a highlight. I guess it's kind of a low light because it's a darker color, okay? All right, so I've got that color on my brush. It's a little marbled, and that is okay. I'm gonna start by painting some almond shaped leaves, okay? So I'm gonna start right in this area right here because this is the area that bugs me the most and I wanna cover it up, okay? So use these leaves to cover up problem areas, okay? Or fill in spaces. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a nice big leaf here. It's gonna kind of come in and it's the shape of an almond or an eye. Can you see that? And I'm gonna fill it in. Okay, I'm not thinking too hard about it. I'm gonna scoot you guys even a little closer. Okay, hang on just a second. Okay, cool. Okay, so we got our first one in. I'm gonna add a second one in right next to it. Hang on, I'm gonna get another layer in there. And this one's gonna be a little bit smaller, but it's gonna be coming out from here. And I'm gonna come down just like so and fill it in. Okay, so they're kind of blobbed together right now, and that is okay. Marcy, I like your painting in the background. Nice. Last year's painting. All right, so we got 2. Okay, I'm gonna move over here. This guy is nice and big, and he kind of wilts downward a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna fill him in. It's straight now. Yeah. All right, so he's right over here. He's nice and large. And he's got a friend that kind of comes out this way. But really, you know the name of the game. However these fit on your canvas, right? Just fit them in however you can. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of going back over, just adding a little extra layer. You can do this if you want to. Your paint's probably still wet, but this green takes pretty well. So while my paint is still wet, I wiped off that light green and I've grabbed just the regular good old green that we have. And I'm gonna go to each leaf and I'm gonna add just a little curve, okay? So I'm gonna start here and I'm just gonna curve right there. See how I kind of just outlined it a little bit? I'm gonna do it right here. Okay. I'm gonna come on over here and I'm gonna do it right here. And I'm gonna do it right here. Okay. Just adds a little something to those leaves, a little definition. Okay. So there's some happy little like spritzy guys that are going on up here. I'm gonna grab a combo of light and dark green on my brush. Kind of don't really know, have a little bit of both. I also rolled my brush on my on my palette so that I have more of a point here. And I'm gonna kind of flick my wrist a little bit as I do these. I'm gonna show them to you first here. I'll show you them on here so you can see what we're talking about. They're hidden behind these berries, but do you see back in here? Or is it too dark? There's some little flicky guys back here. That's a fun word I made up. Okay, we're gonna put those guys in. So they're hidden between these 2 flowers, and I'm gonna turn my brush or my canvas at an angle, and I'm just gonna kind of come in real quick and just, okay, kind of something like that. Do you see those? They're just kind of spraying out from back there. I'm gonna make them a little bit longer. Okay. And if you want, like that was mostly light colored green for me, I'm gonna add just a little bit of dark in there, just because. Okay. Okay. All right, so this next part, I'm gonna keep using my size 7, but if you are heavy-handed, you might wanna jump down to your size 3, or if you like more of a delicate leaf, you might wanna jump down to your size 3. But I'm gonna stick with my 7, and I'm just gonna be very, very light-handed as I paint, okay? But we're gonna do these guys right here, this guy, this one right here. Okay, so you can see a size 7 would be great because you can paint those nice thick leaves, but right in here you have a more of a thinner stem, okay? So if you have a hard time making thin lines, I would recommend jumping down to your size 3. But if it doesn't bother you that much, then stay with your 7, okay? I'm sticking with my 7, but I'm rolling my brush on my palette so I have a nice point. And I'm gonna start on this side over here. So I'm gonna just take my brush and I'm gonna kind of pick a spot between this leaf and this flower right in here. And I'm gonna kind of curve downward. So see, can you see that? I know it's green on blue, but. Okay, I've just kind of drawn a curved stem. And at the bottom of my stem, I'm gonna draw one almond-shaped leaf and paint it in. You see that? That's why I like the 7 for this, because it fills it in nice and quick. And then I'm gonna kind of go back and forth and add little leaves as I go. So I'm gonna put one right here, kind of alternate one right here, alternate one right here. I can probably fit one in right there if I want. There we go. Okay, if they're not showing up on your blue background because your background is a little bit too bold, then add more white to your green and it will pop. Okay. If your background is really light and your green is really light, you want to just take away some of that white. So just use the pure green. And on that note, I'm going to go in with some pure green and I'm going to give a little highlight, or I guess a low light like we did with our other leaves. So I'm just going to find a spot on each leaf and draw in that curve. And make sure it's kind of the same spot on every leaf, okay? I might even put a little bit on the stem. Just a little, you want to be light-handed there. Okay, y'all see that? Okay, awesome. I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing 2 more times. Oh, that's a lie. We're gonna do it 2 more times, but one of them is gonna be kind of like a half. Okay. So I'm gonna show you in this painting. This one right here, we have our stem and our bottom leaf, but then I only have leaves on the side here because our other leaf, our big leaf is right here. Okay. So check out this area in between your leaves and see if you have space for this. I don't. I'll show you. So I would put it coming out from between these 2 leaves. But if I do that, I'm going to come right over on this side. And I could, you know, overlap it and get all fancy, but I don't feel like doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it right down here. Okay. And so that's up to you where you want to put it, how you want to compose your flowers. So I'm going to put mine right here and I'm going to just pull it down and it's going to overlap my pumpkin just like it is in the original painting. So in the original, I have it coming out of these 2 leaves. So if you have space for that, go for it. Otherwise, you can do what I'm doing. I'm going to put my almond shaped leaf at the bottom. Okay. Need some more light green. Okay, my almond shaped leaf. And I am going to alternate back and forth because I can. Okay, I can't if I come out here because I have this guy as my neighbor. Okay, but decide what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and just alternate back and forth until I can't. Okay, and that's how you can really make this painting your own. You can start just putting in leaves and flowers where it best fits your pumpkin. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take that dark green or that normal green that we have. And I'm just giving it one little brush stroke and a little bit on my stem. Okay, just like that. All right, we're gonna do it one more time. Okay, so I'm gonna get my paint. I'm gonna roll my brush. And it's gonna be coming out of this top leaf up here, right by this flower, and kind of going upward, okay? So I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna put my stem out that way. I'm gonna do my almond top leaf. And I'm gonna travel down. And this one, I mirrored my leaves instead of alternating them. So I have them copying each other on either side here. Okay, so you can do that if you want to, or you can stick to the same deal there and go back and forth. Now I'm running right up next to my flower here, so I'm just gonna tuck it behind my flower instead of painting on top of my flower. Okay, you could do whatever you feel like you need to do there. And then that last step is taking that bold green we have and adding that little touch of boldness, right? And a little down our stem. Okay. So I feel like my flowers look like flowers again. Or not again, but finally. That just kind of helped anchor them. So I'm getting a little perspective here. I'm gonna kind of fix one of my leaves. I just feel like that guy's a little weird. So you can look at your leaves and see what you feel like you need to do, if anything. Okay. I'm actually going to clean my brush, and I'm gonna add a little bit of a white petal back in. You see on this leaf how I kind of went over my flower here. I want my flower to be in the foreground, so I'm just gonna take a clean brush with some white paint, and I'm gonna just swoop right down in over that leaf to show that the flower is in the foreground. You may or may not want to do that. You may or may not need to do that. That's up to you, okay? While I'm here with some fresh white paint and a dry flower, I might just add in a couple touches of white here and there just because I can, and I'm like that, okay? We are moving right along. And when you are done with that size 7 brush in your leaves, you can go ahead and drop it in the water. We are done with it for the night. We're gonna hop on down to our size 3 if you haven't already, okay? I'll give you guys a moment to kind of finish up on your leaves. We only have 2 more steps, if you can believe it or not. Actually, probably 3 more steps. So we're gonna do our wheat, our berries, and then our little curly cues. So our wheat, the little berries, and then these little curly cues. And you know what? We can add this little space down here. See how it's darker? A little shadow effect down here. We'll add that as well. But that's all we've got left to do. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we are gonna do is gonna be our wheat. So I've got my size 3 brush. I'm gonna show you my palette real quick. I've got my size 3 brush. It's nice and clean. All the water is out of it. I'm gonna grab a good old chunk of white and bring it over to my yellow. And I want to mix that together. I want a nice pretty yellow, not super, super, super pastel, but lighter. I definitely want it lighter. Okay. So it's still, you know, bold, but it's not quite a pastel, but it's lighter than the yellow you have on your palette. And because I've just mixed a color with this brush, I'm just gonna take it to my paper towel and just kind of pull that extra paint gobs off of it so I'm left with a nice pretty point on my brush. Okay, that's gonna be important for our next part. I'll give you guys a minute to get that color. All right, I love doing these wheats. I think they're really fun and easy. Let's see what we can do, okay? All right, so once again, like our leaves, we're gonna plug them in kind of wherever you feel like they need to go. So I want a really nice thin line for my stem, okay? So I have my size 3 brush. I have just a little bit of paint on it. I have rolled my brush so I have a point. All right, so I'm gonna be very light-handed as I draw this first stem coming out of this flower over here, our first flower. And my stem kind of aims sort of upward, okay? You see that? Nice and long, sort of upward. Okay, so I just had a tiny bit of paint. I drew a very nice thin stem. Now I'm going to use the same brush and I'm going to grab a gob of this yellow paint, okay? And I'm going to press it at the very top of my stem and pull a parentheses. And that should pretty much fill that in for you. If it doesn't, you go ahead and fill it in. Okay, and I'm going to do this all the way down, side by side, very close together. So see how they're touching each other as I go down? So it's kind of like we did our leaves before, except that these are a bit bigger, or not bigger, but they're just closer together. Okay, and you can go ahead and overlap your leaves, but not your flowers. You want to stick it behind your flower, but you can go ahead and paint on top of your leaves, okay? So you see how they're very, very close together. They're those little almond shapes, but they're just stuck to each other. There's a little bit of space in between them, like, at the points where they join. Now, while my paint is still wet, I'm gonna just grab some white, and I'm just gonna do that same thing like we did with our leaves. I'm just gonna come in, and I'm gonna smear a little bit of white on each one. And honestly, it doesn't really matter where you put it. Just each one just needs a touch of white on it. And I'm gonna start I'm gonna press it at the joining point of my wheat granule, whatever, leaf, I don't know what it is, right? But on each one and pull upward, okay? And that's gonna smear my yellow paint and make them look nice and full. Do you guys see that? See how that transformed? Okay. I'm just gonna pull in my stem a little bit more. All right, cool. So that's the name of the green. Then we're gonna do 2 more of these. Okay, so now that you know how to do them, you can put them wherever you feel like they need to go. I'm gonna do my next one up here, coming out of these 2 big flowers. And it's gonna overlap right over one of my, my little green, whatever they are. Okay, I'm gonna try really hard not to put my arm in my fresh paint here. Okay, like I just did. Okay, great, good. I'm gonna aim it kind of off to the side there, like so. I'm gonna do the same thing. Almonds at the top, parentheses, whatever. And then going down on either side. If you press hard enough, you really allow your brush to do all the work for you. So you're really kind of just drawing. You're not even really filling in anything on purpose, because your brush is so thick, when you press it down, it'll just do it for you, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I've got them all drawn the way I want. Now I'm going to go in with white on wet paint, and that is just going to smear really nice for me. Give it that dimension. That white really helps them pop. Okay. Okay. There we go, another one down. I'm gonna revisit my stem on this one, just like I did the last one. Okay, now I'm gonna do one more, and it's gonna come out here between my two flowers, between my two leaves, and just kind of hop on over. Okay. Like I said before, remember, you can put these wherever you want to. Compose your painting however you feel fit. Maybe you did extra flowers, maybe you have extra leaves, maybe you just don't like these things at all and you don't want them in your painting. Whatever you want. I like them. I think they're cute. Okay. All right, got them all drawn out. I'm gonna go in with white now. Okay. Revisit my stem. Oh, got a little too bold there. Hang on. All right. There we go. Are you guys okay with your wheat? Not okay, Marcy? No? Uh-oh. It's fine. Okay. It's fine. You need that shirt. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm really okay. I promise. Yeah. Nice, Holly and Brandy. You're doing great, Brandy. Yeah. Amy, Holly, and Christina, how are you guys doing? Okay? Yeah, thumbs up. Great. Good. Concentrating. Stephanie, you're okay? Good. Yeah, that's beautiful. Very nice. All right, you guys. So let's move on to our I guess they're little holly berries. I don't know what they are. I made them up. But we're gonna stick to our size 3 still. So you might want to get that nice and clean. If you are having problems with your wheat or you haven't finished them yet, don't worry. We don't paint really, in the original at least, there aren't any of these holly berries on top of the wheat, they're next to it. So if you need to go back and work them a little bit more, you can. Okay, so there's a nice cluster over here, a little bit down here, and there's one right here. So notice everything is kind of in 3s, right? We're kind of balancing the leaf bunches, right? The wheat, the holly, the flowers, okay? It's all kind of working in 3s here. So if you are having an issue with your wheat and you want to keep moving forward, then keep on moving forward and then go back and visit your wheat. Let's see here. or keep working on it, whatever you feel like you need to do, okay? All right, so I'm gonna keep on with my size 3. And I'm just gonna use our plain dark brown. Okay, so I'm kind of swirling my brush around in it a bit, kind of reactivating that paint, getting it moving. And because I'm doing that, I'm getting all these gobs on my brush. So remember, you might want to roll your brush a little bit in your paint so when you pull away, you have a nice point. See how I have a nice point on my brush? That's very important for this part. You want nice thin lines, okay? So also remember what I was saying about how much pressure you apply to the brush. If you apply heavy pressure, you're gonna get a heavy, thick line. If you can be very light-handed and think light thoughts, then you can get a very nice thin line, okay? All right, so I'm gonna show you how I do this and you guys can jump at it. They're really, it's just kind of sporadic. There's not much rhyme or reason to it. I will typically draw like a main stem here. Hang on. Let me get you closer. Okay, now you're real close. You can really see. I will draw like a main, kind of a main stem here. And then I kind of branch out and branch out again and branch out again. Maybe I'll come out over here. Okay, I need a little more paint. Make this guy a little longer. Branch out, branch out, branch out. You know, kind of as far as I want to go until I have this like weird little stick pattern happening, right? So I'm gonna do that here. Might come out over here a little bit. And then I'm gonna do that again over here. A little bit bigger maybe this time. I'm gonna come way out here. Do some longer ones. Right on top of my leaves. Not really thinking too much about it. Okay. So wherever you have a little stick, at the end of it, you're gonna have a little berry. Okay, so as you're plotting these out, just kind of think, okay, where do I want my berries to spread? Okay, now I'm gonna do this top section up here, and it's the biggest one, so you get nice and warmed up down here. And then up here, I'm gonna turn my canvas out to the side a little bit. It'll be easier for me to hit. I'm gonna do, let's see, I have about two-ish, well, maybe one main stem. I'll come nice and tall out. But then I kind of have another one that branches out. So it's kind of a V shape. And then this one kind of comes out and over. Okay, so you can totally just make this up. However you need to fill out your space is how you can work these. Okay, I even have, I put another little baby one of these right in here. So it's got its own little stem. And then I kind of just come out on either side a few times. Something like that. Okay. Might put one right there. Okay. So once you have all these little stick guys, you can make a nice pretty little pink with red and white. And remember, our red's pretty powerful, so you can mix whatever color, whatever shade of pink you want. If you're not a big pink person, you can add a little bit of yellow and you can make a, not quite an orange like we did for our pumpkin, but a not so pink, if you will. And that's kind of nice since we have lots of orange shades. So I might do that. I'm throwing a little bit of yellow in, a little bit of red, and a lot of white. Really, your goal is just to mix a color that you enjoy looking at. You guys, you know, I always say that. But you do kind of want it in the pink family because you want it to show up against your pumpkin, okay? So you can test this. I'm gonna test my color by kind of pressing it and making my berry and seeing if it shows up or not. And it does. But if it didn't, you would need to decide, do you need more red? What do you need more of? And the way I'm making these berries is I'm pressing my brush down and I'm kind of swirling around. Press and kind of swirling. I'm not coming at it at an angle. I'm straight on, so you can see I'm straight on, and just kind of swirling around. Okay, I'm going to each of my sticks and I am finding the end of it. Okay. And at this top one, I even just, and I'm going to do it down here too because I need some, but I'm just kind of putting berries even where I don't have a stick. Just kind of putting them in there. Okay, so I'm going to find all my ends, put them in. And this part goes pretty quick. You've taken all of the guesswork out because you've plotted your sticks. It should show up really nice against your blue background. It's a really pretty color combination. Okay. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna put in a couple right here, even though I don't have sticks for them, just to kind of balance things out just a little bit. And then get some perspective. Okay, look back and see that everything is okay and where you want it to be. Okay. I'm gonna give you all a minute to work on this, and we have 2 more things to do. We have our little curly Q guys, and then we have our shadow down at the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna give you all some time. Brandy, that's pretty. Really pretty. Your wheat turned out really good too. Y'all let me know if you have any questions about anything or any of these. I'll show you where we're at. We're almost done and where we're going. And you can see how different they are. Same artist, different night, different mood, different brushes. Mm-hmm. Tonight feels a little bit bolder. So when you're ready, you can take your size 3 brush again, get all the water and the red out of it. We're just going to use our dark brown to make those curly Qs. So you want a nice point on your brush. And I just have a little bit of paint. And you can just decide kind of where these are going to go. I'm going to put a couple up here, and I'm just going to press my brush down and swirl and swirl. And you want to do this kind of quick. So I'm going to swirl, swirl. Over here, I'm going to be a little bit bigger because I have the room to be bigger. I might do 2. And I'm also being pretty light-handed here. That one's 2, and it might make it a 3 for, yeah. So I've got 2 up here, 2 up here, and I'm going to do 1 maybe coming out over here. Okay. And that's that. Since we have this dark brown on our brush, I'm just going to take it, I'll show you my palette. I'm just going to take it over to this blue. I know that probably feels kind of weird. I'm making just kind of a darker blue here. I'm going to pull in a little bit of white, just a bit. And it'll be kind of hard to see what's right until you start painting with it, but you want just a slightly darker blue. Okay, and I'm just going to run this blue kind of underneath my pumpkin down here. I'm just kind of being very sketchy with it. You can see my original blue kind of coming through. And I'm just kind of creating almost like a little tabletop. You don't have to do this part. but if you want to, this is how to do it. I'm kind of going across the bottom. You want to paint your bottom edge this color. You might even want a bigger brush. Okay. And then I kind of used a little bit of a lighter version of this color because I didn't like how much contrast there was there. And I just kind of created this sort of subtle, kind of messy feel out to the side here, kind of almost curving around to kind of break that up a little bit. And a little bit over here too. Keeping it kind of messy because my background is kind of that way also, okay? Keeping it kind of sketchy down there and kind of subtle, okay? And I do believe that is it. You might want to touch up the bottom of your pumpkin a little bit if you want to, if you decided to do that bottom. I'll show you both paintings. You can kind of see the different. Similar composition, slightly different. Colors are just a little bit different, but you get the same idea. So did anybody have any questions about any of the parts? Did anybody need any advice or any help on anything? Okay, well, if you do, you are more than welcome to send me pictures. In fact, I hope you will send me pictures. I'm more than happy to take a look at it if you have a problem area and kind of help you brainstorm, figure out how to make it better. If that's Christina's, it's pretty. Yeah, nice. Oh, Holly and Brandy, you guys did great tonight. So happy to have y'all back. That looks great. Marcy, I love your composition. Oh, hold it up again. It's coming out great. It really, really is. Yeah. You're welcome. If you're having, I don't see that you did any of the wheat part, but I don't even know that it really needs it. Honestly, if you don't want to do that part, you could probably get away with like doing some of the little curly Q guys. If you want to throw them in there, you can, or you could do like little mini versions of them.
Yeah.
You know?
This one of them turned out stupid, so I had to like repaint my background, so I'm letting it dry.
Gotcha. I couldn't even tell that you had to repaint your background. You did all of that while I was teaching all of those steps. That's amazing. That's great.
So anyway, I'll try again tomorrow.
Okay. You have enough paint left over for that? Okay. If you need more, just come by and I'll get you some. Okay. Stephanie, that turned out beautiful. Nice and full. Very nice. Yeah, so you guys please, good night, Marcy. You guys please send me a photo of your final painting, or if you have questions, I'd love to see them. Go ahead and rinse out, good night, Stephanie. Go ahead and rinse out your paintbrushes if you're done. Just rinse them under warm water and let them just dry out on the paper towel overnight. Just make sure you get all the paint out of them. That would be really great. And save your paint. If you have any extra paint, you can do another painting or work on this one tomorrow. Maybe you have more ideas. Brandy, I'm sure you have something up your sleeve that you want to add. And thank
you
you
so much. This was so much fun. We've missed you.
I know. guys also. Thank you for coming back tonight. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye, Brandy. Bye, Holly.